my view, that will include addressing the following problems, two of which I've already alluded to. One is the question of fissile material production, that is, production of material that is used in nuclear bombs. The 5 countries, United States, Russia, China, France, and the United Kingdom, are no longer producing those bomb materials. All right? One of the major demands of the rest of the world in the context of nonproliferation and disarmament is that everybody stop producing those materials. Right now it's believed that India and Pakistan are the 2 countries that are producing this material. Israel may or may not be, we don't know, but it certainly has not given a commitment that it would stop. So one of the big international demands is that those 3 countries, India, Israel, and Pakistan, stop producing this material. Now, in the proposed deal, the U.S. and India get around this by saying, yes, we're all going to try to, we all agree basically to support a global treaty to be negotiated on fissile material production. Except the problem is the U.S. has been undermining this negotiation all along and has no intention really of bringing it to completion. And even if the U.S. did, it's not clear that China would. So it's an interesting dodge. What would be better would be for India to agree to a moratorium, as the 5 already have done, pending negotiations of this treaty. That would be a way to improve this framework and to get a true benefit from the standpoint of nonproliferation, ending the production of bomb material in the world, and something that Congress should look at. The second big adjustment that I think has to be made is, as I alluded to before, establishing criteria for designating which facilities are civilian or military in India. And I would suggest that all nuclear power reactors and research and development facilities that are related to current or future generation of electricity should be designated civilian and put under international safeguard. Another issue that will have to be clarified and modified is what are the criteria for U.S. nuclear cooperation with India at any given facility. And there the argument will be, or should be, I would say, that only facilities that are under safeguards in perpetuity should then be facilities with which the U.S. engages in nuclear cooperation. Now, ideally, these different criteria that are still unspecified in the proposed agreement can be framed as a country-neutral package. In other words, you would frame the criteria in a way that will apply to any country, not just to India. This will take time in the United States. It's going to take a lot of time, I believe. And then in an institution called, it's not an institution, it's a coalition called the Nuclear Suppliers Group, which is a cartel of more than 40 countries who supply nuclear technology internationally, and they agreed to establish rules to govern their supply, and so they will have to change their policies to allow nuclear cooperation with India. Given that this is going to take a lot of time and that India's development needs are rushing forward with its economic growth, we ought to be looking at intermediate steps rather than kind of the grandiose promise or dream that the 2 states had in July. And there I would focus on energy development that India needs, and not necessarily nuclear. Dr. Arunachalam and others have great expertise on the potential of renewable energy technology in India. High technology that is not politically controversial, that can't lead to bombs, that it's not environmentally benign. That ought to be something that the U.S. Congress takes on with much greater energy and generosity as a way to foster India's development. It would also endorse a U.S. policy of standing back and not trying to impede the building of a natural gas pipeline from Iran through Pakistan in India. Fundamentally, we have enough interest in India's well-being to help it out of the jam that it's in right now, both in terms of the future of its nuclear energy establishment, but also energy more broadly. But India has to make some fundamental choices. Right now, India is wanting the U.S. and the international community to give up all the old rules, to give India everything it wants, to save